Hello, my love. Welcome back. My name is Cynthia Nurek. I'm actually happy to have you here because today is my first episode. Today, we're going to talk about the day my life changed. Let me tell you what I mean by that. This is what really happened. I have moved from New Jersey to Florida for a job. I left a job that was security. I was there for 10 years. I had insurance, vacations paid. And at some point in my life, I had to make a decision. Do I regret doing something or do I just take a leap of faith? I was offered a job in Florida, straight commission, no salary, with 2 kids and no support in Florida. But I took the chance and I moved to Florida. While in Florida selling oceanfront units, I was offered an opportunity to present the project to the snowbirds in New York. So I had to take a flight from Florida back to New York. I talked to my mom about it. At the time, I was just on the down and out. I didn't have a lot of money. It was commission based. So until I sold the units, I didn't make any money. My mother says to me, "You're going to go to Florida, and when are you flying?" And I was like, "Well, my flight is on September 11th. And my mother, superstitious as she was, says to me, "Cynthia, do me a favor. Please change your flight to September 10th. Just do it for me." I'm like, "Ma, really? I hardly have any money, and you want me to change the flight?" She goes, "You got to do it." And I have to tell you something. If I were you, I would change your flight to a first class ticket. And I'm like, "Ma, really? I hardly have any money, and you want first class ticket?" She goes, "No, no, no. I'm going to help you." I said, "All right. As long as I find a window seat, I'm going to be okay." So I go back to try to find a seat on the flight. And as I'm looking, it's like, only if I find it is a window seat in first class, I'll take it. If not, I'll go back to coach. Luckily, I find a seat on first class by the window, 7F, and I click on that seat, and my life changed with that click. I go up to the airplane, and I see this guy with white hair, good-looking guy, and as I'm passing, he says to me, "I'm sorry, like for me to pass." And I said, "No, I'm afraid that's my seat." He goes, "Oh, no problem." I sit to my window, he sits next to me, and we had a beautiful conversation for the 4-hour flight that we were, the 2.5 hours flight, whatever that was. And it was very organic. We talked, we laughed. It was just very simple and not trying to pick on each other or like to try to impress each other. And at the end of the flight, we exchanged information. And I'm thinking, what a nice guy, what a pleasant guy. Hopefully, I deserve somebody like that. I've been through so much in the 19-year marriage. I deserve somebody like him. And this is something very interesting. When I talked to my mom that day, I said to my mom, I said, "Listen, let me tell you what happened on the plane. Remember when you told me to sit in that first class? I met this interesting guy. Oh boy, Ma, I don't know how I don't find a guy like that." And my mom said, "Cynthia, you're going to find a man just like him because you deserve it." Make the story short, months passed, and then he calls me. And he says, "Hey, Cynthia, this is Mark. Mark from the plane. Did you remember me?" And I said, "Of course, Mark, I remember you. How's everything going?" And we chatted for a little bit. And he says, "I would love to meet you and catch up." And I'm like, "Okay, that sounds good. Why don't we meet tomorrow night?" And I said, "Okay, that sounds good." So the next day, a couple of days actually, we met at a nearby place and we started talking. And that's when he opened up a little bit more about himself. And he says that he's getting divorced. And I'm thinking to myself, they all tell you they're getting divorced. But I gave him the opportunity to explain to me what was going on and this and that. And everything stayed like that. It wasn't any commitment from him or myself. But I did say to him, if you're still in the midst of getting divorced, you're still with your wife, call me when you're done with that process. Because I don't want to bring a rebound. And honestly, I'm not comfortable with that. So after a few months, I'm thinking the guy's not going to call me again. I mean, it's been a while now. Till I see this call coming in, and he says, "This is Mark." We rekindle again. We started small talk. And then he said, and I asked him, "Are you divorced?" And he says, "But not yet." And then I said, "Well, you know how I go about that. I'm not too comfortable. Why don't you call me when you're divorced?" And then he disappears again for months. This time I'm like, for sure the man is not going to call me. One day I'm on my job, and the security guy comes over to me and says, there's a guy outside looking for you, and he's riding a bike. And I'm thinking to myself, a guy riding a bike can't afford this oceanfront units, $1 million units. But anyway, let me see who this person is. I go outside, and it's Mark. He takes off his helmet, and he's like, hey, Cynthia, remember me? I'm like, oh my goodness, what are you doing around here? He goes, I don't know, I was passing by, figured I'd come and say hello. Guess what? I moved across the street. I said, oh, you did? He said, yeah, because I'm finally divorced. I said, oh, that's interesting. And then he says to me, would you like to have dinner with me tomorrow night? And I said, you know what? Maybe not tomorrow, but maybe we could do it Friday. What do you think? And he's like, okay, we'll do that. So with this, I decided to meet him that Friday night. I get all glumped up. And then he says, can I pick you up? And I said, why don't I meet you there? I don't know. I'm old fashioned. I don't know really. I mean, this guy is really well known. He's an attorney. But I don't know. That's how I am. I'm like, why don't I meet you there? And he's like, well, Cynthia, I could pick you up. I'm like, I'm not comfortable with that. Why don't I meet you at the restaurant? So I get to the restaurant. He's all dressed up and I'm all dressed up. Then I started seeing the quality of a guy that he was. He doesn't want to play games. And he really straight up told me that. Like, I want to get to know you. And he started telling me about his family and his background, how long he was married, how much he valued his marriage. And that's why it took him this long to finally pull the trigger and say, let me take Cynthia out, let her know where I'm at. So little by little, he was caring about me. We started dating. We went to a few dates after that. And he cared about not only me, but I had a daughter at the time that was 17. My son was in college. My family lived in Orlando. And he started caring not only about me, but about the people around me. At the time, within 3 months, I lost my job. The job, remember, this is the job that I left after a secure job in New Jersey with benefit and the whole thing. Now I'm in the only commission job. I took the leap of faith. I'm like, this is it. This is what I want to do. 4 months into it, I get laid off. Crash happened 2008. I have no job. Mark is asking me, what are you doing? He doesn't believe that I have 3 jobs, 7 days a week. I did everything, retail. I sold business to business. I was a personal shopper. I did everything I needed to do to make ends meet. And this man, immediately after that, was concerned about my well-being. Like, are you going to be okay? Do you need anything? He literally wanted to help me from the get-go, which I didn't accept. That wasn't my thing. And I was making things happen for my kids, for myself. But I saw in this guy something very different. So as we all know, relationships go through ups and downs. And our relationship is not exception. So we went through a little bumps on the road, not knowing what really was going to happen. Within a year, he was put in a crossroad himself. And he had to choose to continue to live in Florida or make a choice to move out of the state of Florida for his job, either to New York or California. At that time, he decided to go to California. And he comes to me and he says, how do you feel about moving to California? And I said, well, that sounds great. We came to California to see the environment, to see the place for his interview. And then he talks to me about it. And he says, what do you think? And I'm like, listen, Mark, I really get along great. We've been through a little bit of challenges, but I have to tell you, I'm not moving across country for a boyfriend. We literally are boyfriend and girlfriend. I have now a steady job. I have a daughter, a little bit of a support system here. I'm kind of getting used to this environment. I'm not moving across country for a boyfriend, but I could for a husband. And he said, you got a deal. If I pass the bar, because he has to take another bar to become a lawyer in California, pass the bar, we get engaged, we get married, and I said, you got it. So he comes to California. I stay in Florida. He comes here. He starts studying. He takes the bar. You have to wait like 6 months to get the grade. And I'm still in Florida. And he comes back and forth. He passes the bar. April 1st of 14, I come to California. August of 14, we get engaged. In October of 14, we get married in Vegas. Because I have to tell you, I think This is the part of a woman that a man was going to treat you the way you allowed him to treat him. If I easily say, okay, let's go, it was an exciting thing for me. I've never been to California. But I needed to make sure that what was in for me. And not that I'm a greedy person or I'm a gold digger. I just wanted to make sure that I had stability, had security. Because I have a daughter that's 17 years old and is watching. How is her mom navigating life? How is my mom making choices, especially for a man? So all of that just made me feel more comfortable. And luckily, it worked out for me. What I want you to take away from this is don't be afraid to bet on yourself. Fear can sometimes prevent us to welcome our blessings. Little did I know, that risk I took led me to meet my husband, who we've been together for 18 years and counting. And now that you're here, I wanted to invite you to the next episode. And like you know it, I'm going to be telling it like it is. Don't forget to make comments down below. I would love to hear from you.